Welcome to Screw the Commute, the entrepreneurial podcast dedicated to getting you out of the car and into the money. With your host, lifelong entrepreneur and multimillionaire, Tom Antion.
Hey everybody, it's Tom here with episode 176 of Screw the Commute podcast. We are beginning Vetrepreneurs Month. And this is where we're going to highlight veterans who are entrepreneurs, and there is nobody else on this earth that I could have in the kickoff version of this than Alain Burrese. And I'll tell you why. I mean, he's one of the my best friends in the world, and he's one of the few people in the world I would trust my life to, and that's dead serious, or alive serious, I hope. So yeah, he's a great guy. We'll get into all the stuff he's doing, and his credentials are just through the roof. So I'll introduce him to you in a minute. And I hope you didn't miss episode 175. It was one of my Monday training sessions. On this one, I talked about the best advertising bargains on the web. You will just love this. You're going to get sometimes ads for 1, 2, 3, or 4 cents. So you want to check that out. Please tell your friends about this podcast too. And especially if you have any veteran friends, I think they'll really enjoy this month hearing about what their other brethren are doing. So tell them to go to screwthecommute.com, or they can go to iTunes or any of their favorite podcast listening places. And you can also tell them to grab a copy of our podcast app from the App Store, or they can go just to screwthecommute.com/app, where we have complete instructions to show you how to use all the fancy features so you can take us with you on the road. And I've got a great big freebie for you for listening to this podcast. It's my $27 ebook, How to Automate Your Business. And just one of the tips in this ebook has saved me over 7.5 million keystrokes, allowed me to handle up to 150,000 subscribers and 40,000 customers with just one part-time temp person. I mean, the only time I started hiring a bunch more people was when the accountant told me I had too much retained earnings. I'm like, are you kidding me? So I said, I'd rather get some help over here and really expand the business than just pay extra taxes. Let's see, what else I got for you here? You find that at screwthecommute.com/automate free, screwthecommute.com/automate free. Now, our sponsor for this month is the Internet Marketing Training Center of Virginia. We are approved by the Department of Defense to participate in the MyCAA Military Spouse Scholarship Program. Now, our school gives a $9,500 scholarship to military spouses, any military, any law enforcement, or first responders. And the MyCAA program, part of the Department of Defense, gives $4,000. So they can get a total of $13,500 towards their education. And this education can take them anywhere they happen to be deployed. They can both study online and legitimately get hired online, so they're not going after crappy jobs every 2 years or so. So I'm going to tell you more about that later, but you can check it out at imtcva.org/military. Of course, everything will be in the show notes. This is episode 176. So you go to screwthecommute.com/176. All right, let's get to the main event. Alain Burrese is author of Survive a Shooting and director of active defense training for Reflex Protect. He's a leading authority on active shooter response. His programs teach strategies to survive active threats and how to defend yourself both empty-handed and with Reflex Protect, a revolutionary new non-lethal defensive spray being used in hospitals, schools, churches, and businesses across the country. Alain, are you ready to screw the commute?
I'm ready, Tom.
Now, you've been on a long time ago. I don't remember what episode it was, but it's been a while since I've had a chance to talk to you. So good to talk to you, man. You're in a new business endeavor, I hear.
I am. I was on one of your first podcasts. Yeah. I think it was in single digits.
That's
back
right.
Then.
Yep. Yeah,
we haven't seen each other in person for a little while either. We need to change that.
That's getting too old. Yeah, we got to get some workouts in after my. I think I'm to the point where I can work out a little bit now. I was in that hunting accident, and it would have been a great story had I gotten shot, but no, I just fell on a log. So yeah, tell everybody what you're doing. You were on your own totally for a long time, and then you decided to team up with another company, right?
I did. I mean, I was teaching active shooter response. The survivor shooting book
Which you're
came
still
out.
doing, right?
And I'm still
Course,
doing.
yeah.
And, I was teaching those courses, and in those courses, I was teaching how to use, hand defense and improvised weapons.
Mm-hmm.
And then I met the CEO of this company. I met Joe Anderson with Reflex Protect, and he showed me this new defensive spray that they came up with. And he said, "What do you think?" And I was like, "That's the missing piece." And I started promoting it. And then last Christmas, Joe came up and said, "Hey, Alan, why don't we work together? You have the training piece, I have a product piece, and I think you have already said they go together. So let's put these together, and we'll teach people how to survive shootings, and we'll include this product. Instead of teaching them to improvise, why don't we give them a tool that was specifically made for workplace violence?" And that's what we're doing. We're teaching people how to prepare for and defend against active threats, and we're providing a tool to help them with that fight or attack back defensive piece. We're still teaching all the other strategies, but we're giving them one extra thing with that tool of Reflex Protect.
And what's special about it? What's so special about it?
Well, Tom, you're familiar with pepper spray.
Yeah, when you and I did the brutal self-defense class together, we showed people how to deploy it and the pros and cons of it and everything. So what's different?
The big con was if you spray it inside, it clears the room.
Right, exactly. And, we kind of noticed that the floor got really slippery.
Yes. Well, with Reflex Protect Presidia gel, it uses a CS base,
mm-hmm.
and it's a gel where it sticks on the person you shoot, and it does not atomize and go everywhere. So you could have a crowd of people spray the guy right in the middle. He would go down in pain, and everybody else would be fine.
So this is a pinpoint spray?
It is. It goes out sort of like wasp spray,
right,
in that direct 15, 20 feet of straight spray.
Yeah. So it works inside or outside?
Yeah, it was developed for hospitals first because of the huge workplace violence problem, across the nation with nurses getting beat up and such.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to have something that would not cross-contaminate, the place. And so we've had rooms full of people spray one person, that person drops to their knees in pain, and everybody else in the room is fine.
That's amazing. It's crazy amazing. Yeah, I could imagine being there with oxygen on in my deathbed and somebody spraying pepper spray.
Yes. And we made a decontaminant. The decontaminant is patent pending, where we can reverse the effects of that within 2 to 3 minutes.
Well, you know what? If it was a real situation, I'd say, you know what? I just can't find that decontaminant right now.
And if it's a bad guy and you want to let him lay there in pain, great.
Yeah.
But hospitals, they're like, well, regardless if he was a patient or not, he's going to become a patient. And that decontaminant was very important for the hospitals.
Oh, man.
And schools want it too, because what happens if somebody gets a hold of it and an innocent kid is sprayed or something? Right. They can stop that really quick.
So is it in the form of a pad or something that you wipe off the gel?
It's a liquid. And so you either put it on, and we have an aerosol version, or just a bottle. You spray it on, or you put some on a towel and you start blotting.
I see. So you don't rub.
You don't rub, you just blot. And it actually, the chemists describe it where it goes in there and actually breaks down the CS crystals and stuff and neutralizes the product. And 2 to 3 minutes after its use, people are saying, oh, I can see, my eyes are fine.
Wow, that's amazing, because, you see all these videos with pepper spray where people are like gagging for a half an hour and putting milk on their face. Everything else.
Exactly. And every police officer that we have sprayed says that this gel works faster than pepper spray, and that decontaminant is amazing because of how quickly it stops the pain.
Well, yeah. And then, like I said, the collateral damage thing is, and even if the wind is blowing, you can get it on yourself, with pepper spray, especially if you're using the fog like I teach, so
Yeah,
that's
and pepper spray still has a place, but this stuff I think will replace it because it is better
mhm.
because of that non-cross contamination.
Yep,
Now,
yep.
if you're out in the woods with a bear, I want that big fog of pepper
Right,
spray.
right, right, exactly. Yeah.
But with a person, where if this stream and just splatter his face, and it's great stuff because nobody else affected.
Yeah, yeah, and we taught making using the fog with pepper spray and making like a wall between you and the bad guy. But again, if you're surrounded by civilians or good people, you can just cause a lot of havoc. So
Especially inside. I mean, hospitals, they said, we can't use pepper spray in here. We'd have to close the ER or whatever.
of
You
course,
can't, I can use pepper spray in a classroom with all the, little kids, and then every little kid is having a problem.
hmm
So this provides people a non-lethal way to stop a bad guy and not contaminate anybody else in the room
now
or building.
has it been tried on animals?
Yeah, we have one report. I mean, we're not going to test it on
Right,
animals,
right.
obviously. But we did have one lady tell one of our people that she sprayed a dog that came at her, and the dog ran away.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's
So
not enough testing to say for sure.
yeah, so I mean, we're not selling it for animals, but
Right.
we have that one story that a lady said it did stop a dog that was coming at her.
Okay. So let's take you back a little bit. This is Vetrepreneur Month, and I said I specifically wanted to have you back as the opening of this month. We got a lot of great vetrepreneurs coming the rest of the month. But tell everybody about your background, and now some of it is outside of the military, like your Hapkido credentials. You're like, is it 8th Dan or 5th Dan at this point?
I'm a fifth.
Fifth
Yep.
Dan at this point, legitimately, yeah, because there's a lot of crazies in that field of martial arts that make up their own. They just make up their own.
Your rank is just it's if you believe in the instructor that gave it to you, it means something to you. Doesn't mean a whole lot to anyone else because there's no one standard. And it's important to me because my instructors in Korea have promoted me from 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. And when they give me 6, I'll be honored to get that from them.
Yeah, that's great. So you were, remember your credentials as Army sniper instructor that could sneak up on anybody, and tell them about your background in the service.
I went in the 80s.
Mhm.
I went through basic training and jump school, and then I spent a couple years with the 82nd Airborne Division. As my friends say, I was jumping out of perfectly good airplanes,
Yeah.
and I have to tell them there's no such thing as a perfectly good airplane. But I did that for a couple years. Then I was transferred over to the 2nd Infantry Division in South Korea back in 88.
Is that where you met your wife?
No, actually, I met her later when I was living in Korea to learn Hapkido.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Yep. But when I was there in 88, I went to the 2nd Infantry Division Scout Sniper School. I graduated 2nd in my class. And then later I went back as an assistant instructor at that school, special duty for a number of class cycles.
And weren't you an MP for a while too, or not?
No, I ran from those guys.
Oh, oh, that's right. You were telling me the story about the guy hitting your truck. You had to get out of there before MPs found you, right?
Yeah, so we used to say that I stayed in shape because I had to be in better shape than the bad guys if we went to war, but also had to be in better shape than the MPs.
Okay, so yeah, I remember that story about you had to pass a test in the what's it called? Stalking or what?
Stalking was one. I mean, you had to pass a number of things to graduate as a sniper, and the stalking phase was the phase that knocked most people out. If you passed the shooting phase and you failed one of the others, you would graduate as an advanced marksman.
I see.
If you passed everything, you would graduate as a sniper. And most of the ones that graduated advanced marksman was because of the stalking, because it was difficult. You had to be able to sneak up and be able to pull off shots and without getting caught by the instructors that were sitting there watching the field with binoculars and looking for you.
Yeah, now I never understood the part where the guy down range is standing there like pointing. What's that all about?
Well, you would have instructors watching from, up with their targets, but then you would have what we call the walkers out there walking around because instructors had radios. And so if I'm an instructor sitting on the Jeep and boom, one of the students fired and they fired blanks at us.
Yeah.
Then I would tell that walker, hey, go close to that student, and then when the walker would say, hey, I'm standing with so far, I would be looking really close in that area. And then he would say,
but can the walker actually see you or not?
Yeah, the walkers out there, they'll see you.
Oh, okay.
We didn't, when I was a walker, I wouldn't give the students away. I would just stand there and say, I'd tell the guy, because we've given them a fair shot. But then they had to do a second shot. Well, and that's when the instructors are sort of looking at them close.
Oh, I see. And they've got spotting scopes.
They pull that off without getting seen. And then the instructor would hold up a number and the walker would say, hey, what number do you see? Because we're 200 meters away from the instructor, so the walkers are talking with the student, just doing so by not looking at him and giving him away.
I see.
And the student would have to tell the walker, he's holding up 23, and the walker on his radio, the student says he sees 23. Okay, and so that's how the instructors would be able to see. And then if the instructors see one, and that could be at the very beginning of a stock, or it could be after they took their shot. The instructor be walker, take 5 steps left, 2 steps forward. The sniper's at your feet. And then the walker would look down and say, yeah, you saw him. He's there.
You lose then, right?
And then you get so many points for doing certain things. But, like if you get past the line and do your first shot, you get points. If you take your second shot without getting seen, you got points. If you could read the number, you got points. With a 50 points was a maximum per exercise. And you had to get so many points per exercises to pass that phase of the class.
Now, didn't you know Carlos, is it Hathcock?
Carlos Hathcock.
Yeah.
Yes, Carlos and I used to communicate. I have a signed book.
Well, tell everybody who he is if they don't know.
Carlos Hathcock, for those who don't know, was a famous Marine sniper, had 93 confirmed kills in Vietnam. He was injured very badly, burned for over half his body, saving some people during Vietnam. And then later with the MS and the injuries, we lost him early. He died when I was in law school. But, I used to have talks with him on the phone, just a really great guy. And, I treasure that, I have a couple autographed books by him. He signed the books that were about him for me. I got a couple Christmas cards from him and his wife, nice. Jo, still tucked away that I keep as well. So a good man. The stuff he did in Vietnam is legendary. That's why they wrote some books about him.
And he had just an old bolt action Remington, or what do you use?
He was using, for most of his, it was the 30-06 Winchester, I believe, is what most of his kills. And he was one of the first to actually use a 50 cal. It wasn't the new 50 cal sniper rifles. It was a 50 cal machine gun that he mounted a sniper scope on.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, he zeroed it in I think it was 2,500 meters from where they had it was sitting there. And he actually made a kill at that range with that 50 cal with the sniper scope mounted onto it.
But one shot, so he wasn't found out, right? But 2,500 meters, nobody's going to get him anyway, right?
I think he walked that one in. I don't think he did it on his first round. Yeah. But it was in a camp, those 50 cals are huge. So it was mounted and it was in the camp, and it was out at the perimeter of the camp is where he made the kill.
I didn't hear about that story. So, so you passed with flying colors there, and then what?
Well, then I ended up getting out of the Army. So went to college, thought about law school, but I wasn't ready. So I went back and lived in Japan for a while. I lived there for a year, taught English, came back to America and lived in Riverside, California, wrote my first book on self-defense for Paladin Press. And I was training with Mark McYoung and doing bodyguard and security work for exotic dancers down in Southern California.
I didn't know that either.
Then I headed back to Korea as a civilian to study Hapkido and Qigong. And that's when I actually met my wife, because she was a teacher teaching at the same school I taught at to pay the bills. I taught English to pay the bills, well, so I could, train.
I see. So did you get married over there, or when you got back?
No, I left there to come back to America to go to law school. And then she came over and we got married while I was in law school. Then I played lawyer for a while and just really, I had a good job with Alps, a company that gave malpractice insurance to other attorneys. I was a claims attorney.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was sort of lured away by a little extra money from a law firm. And it just wasn't for me. After a few years there, it's just like, this isn't for me.
Was that the
I
RV company?
Yeah, one of the things we did was we created Montana limited liability companies for folks to purchase their RVs, people that didn't live in Montana,
right,
and not have sales tax. And I also did a lot of transactional work, helped people with small businesses, did mediation and work. But I wanted to teach, I wanted to write, so I left the practice of law to start writing books and speaking. And then the Aurora shooting came. If you remember that,
sure.
2012 at the Batman premiere.
Mm-hmm.
And people started saying, "Hey, Alan, you teach safety. What do you do in these?" And that's when I made a commitment to start focusing on that area. And I ended up studying. I got certified through Safari Land so I could teach their course on active shooter. I studied other things. And I wrote the book that I wanted to have when I was first looking into the topic. And some are calling it the best book on the topic, if you want to believe Amazon reviews.
I've seen everything there is. I'm into this up to my ears. And it is the most comprehensive book on active shooter anywhere on earth.
And so
give them the title.
It's Survive a Shooting, and it's available on Amazon or surviveashooting.com.
Yeah, it's better. Go to surviveashooting.com and get on Alan's. You got a mailing list over there, right?
Well, I got a mailing list at Survive and Defend.
Survive and Defend, right.
That's where I teach a lot of safety stuff. The Survive a Shooting is just about the book and the course and active shooter stuff. Survive and Defend is about anything related to safety and self-defense.
Okay. Tell them about the novel that I'm going to razz you about a little bit.
Oh, one of the things I wrote is I wrote a novel, and called Lost Conscience. And essentially it's about an attorney who was a Hapkido expert who happened to be a sniper in the Army. His buddy, who is based on a real life friend of mine, Frank, who was a truck driver. Frank was killed, and so we lost him a while back on a hang gliding accident. But the novel is about Ben and Frank. My middle name being Ben.
Oh, I didn't even know that one either.
Yeah, Alan Benjamin.
All you need is a Dodge Durango, and you could drive right into the book.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So folks here, I've been razzing him for years about this because I'm saying, wait a minute. All right, this book is about these guys that a prosecutor. You were also a prosecutor, right?
I did spend some time in the city attorney's office and I was a prosecutor.
So there's a prosecutor that goes rogue, taking out child molesters because he's a sniper, and everything's exactly the same as Alan except for the Dodge Durango.
Yes, and the last name. I use Ben Baker, and just as an inside, Greg Baker is a friend of mine who was the head instructor of the Second ID Sniper School when I was working there as an assistant instructor. So, and Greg and I are still friends today. So,
man.
That's where the last name came from.
That's the only novel I've read in like 30 years. I'm not much of a fiction, but I couldn't put it down. But my favorite products, I'm just crazy about wrist locks and stuff because I had a nightclub for a long time, and you're a nightclub owner in a rural area, and you're kind of a target for people, lawsuits and everything. So I was always interested, since I'm a little kid, in controlling people without bruising. Yep. So the Lock On series is some of it's too fancy for me. I'm not really cut out for it, but boy, I could put some hurting on people with what's in that. So how many I forget how many DVDs is that?
I have 11 out total.
Right,
I did some with Paladin Press and
right.
some with Ike Productions. The Lock On series is 5, and then the restraint control and come along techniques, which has borrowed from Lock On plus specific stuff just for bouncing and control. That's a 2-volume set.
And you did a lot of arena control where you had to use that stuff all the time, right?
I have. I worked my first concert way back in the early 90s, and I've done different concert security and event security for many years. And I have I have not used every technique
No,
that I've
of course
learned in
not.
Hapkido,
Right.
but I've used a few of my favorites quite a few times.
Yeah, because some stuff is like, especially for me, I'm no twinkle toes. I'm not gonna spin around underneath somebody, but just the main stuff. I mean, it's just like old Bruce Lee said that he doesn't fear a guy that knows 10,000 kicks, right, or something like that. I fear the guy that knows
It's
one
the guy
kick.
that knows one and does it 10,000 times.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you ran into this Reflex Protect guy, and then teamed up, right?
Yeah, I mean, and it's been a wonderful relationship, just because what he did and what I was doing and I'm still doing, they fit so well. I mean, I literally just got off a plane 2 hours ago,
Right.
coming back from Arizona, where I was down there talking to 2 different charter school networks and about what we can do to train employees and help them with their active shooter preparedness, and how Reflex Protect can help them be better prepared as well.
Yeah, and I think every company, 5 miles from me was the Virginia Beach shooting, and I don't.
Right. Yeah. You knew somebody that knew him or something. Yeah.
Yeah, the guy that cleans my pond is the side hustle for him on the weekends. Was a city employee, and said goodbye. He was leaving early that day. It was a Friday afternoon, I'm pretty sure. He was leaving 15 minutes early, and he had known the guy for 8 years. And he says, "Okay, I'll see you." I think it was Ron or somebody. "See you, Ron. Okay, I'll see you next week." And 15 minutes later, the shooting's happening. Yeah, so it's
Wow.
It can happen like instantly anywhere. Nobody is exempt from this. And if you stick your head between your legs or head in the sand, it's just, there's no reason for it. And especially when I think of a lot of these kids that sitting there like in a shooting gallery, just sit there and freeze and do nothing. And they're just like Virginia Tech shooting, a while back, So
Yeah, I mean, it was so funny when you texted me about that. I was literally sitting at the computer emailing a big hospital in Seattle that was, we were trying to figure out the dates for me to go out there and train all of the security people at that hospital with active shooter preparedness and Reflex Protect, because the hospital wanted both. They wanted the training, they wanted the product. So I'm literally working with this guy and the head of security in the Seattle hospital because he thought it was important and we need to do it soon. And then you text me, there's an active shooter right here. So, I mean, and that's why it is sort of important that people have a plan and get some training and be prepared, because it can happen anywhere, anytime.
Yeah, and up the road. I mean, not really up the road, but up in Baltimore, they had that newspaper, I think it was, that, hey, the guy went and locked the exit door before he went in and started shooting from the other direction. I mean, they're getting more diabolical all the time, but you just can't sit there. You got to tell them your basic quick method of what you do.
Well, first of all, I teach people things they can do beforehand to maybe stop it. I mean, if there was an article this week where at least 30 active threat incidents have been stopped since Dayton, Ohio. I mean, in schools. So, I mean, people, if you're paying attention, if you're aware and you listen to those lessons that I teach and write about, we can prevent them in the first place.
That's the first step. Absolutely. But I mean, geez, that kid down in Florida was reported to the FBI, and I think, and didn't do anything. I think it was
sadly, too many, of the warnings and stuff, they're going unheeded, and stuff's happening. And when the bullets start flying, it's all that other stuff is too late. You need to do something immediately. And I have a triangle, and in my book, I talk about escape. I talk about denying access to you by barricading, and I talk attack back. With Reflex Protect, we changed attack back to defend because it fit with the product, but it's still the same principle. You're going to stop that threat. And which one you do is going to be determined by your location, the location of the killer, and your environment. It's not a linear equation. First you do this, then you do that, only then do you do this. You act immediately, and what you do is determined by your location, his location, and your environment.
Yeah, and there's a lot of details to what side of the door should you be on, and how to barricade, and all the kinds of little details. We only touched a little bit on them when we did Brutal Self-Defense together, but just a little bit of thought ahead of time rather than just freezing, can give you an infinite chance to survive.
And it's simple stuff,
Yes.
but it opens people's eyes. I 2 different classes within this month, but one at a hospital, one at a school. I took the groups. We're gonna have a field trip to the bathroom. Let's go. And I took 2 ladies into the bathroom.
You gotta be careful you don't separate that out and say that in front of your wife.
Yeah, well, no, but we went we didn't use the bathroom, but we went to the bathroom. But I took 2 ladies into the bathroom, and I had 2 of the biggest guys outside. And then I told the ladies what to do. And I told the big guys, come on in. And the guys could not get in. Beautiful. And then we opened up the door, and I show how the ladies were braced, and they're braced against the wall. So in actuality, those guys were pushing against the wall. There's no way they're going to move it. And the ladies that kept those big guys out, they didn't break. It was easy for them. There was no strength involved.
Yeah, and it's almost like lock-on stuff. It's you're using leverage and stuff.
So I'm teaching people, and I'm opening their eyes to help them think differently, so they can be better prepared when something really bad happens.
Yeah, it's so important nowadays. I mean, it's they hardly report stuff anymore unless it's an AR-15 involved. But this stuff is happening everywhere. Shootings. A little girl got shot in Chicago, I think, the other day in a gangbang.
And it's not just shootings. There's just my sister last year was attacked by a homeless person. She made it into her car, and the person beat on her car and dented the heck out of her car. She called the police, got a voicemail recording, left a message, and was never called back.
Oh my God.
Yeah. She's like, I need some of that Reflex Protect.
Yeah, really.
I wasn't involved with them when this happened. And then when I got involved and I told her about it, she's like, that's what I need, because Paul went out and bought me some pepper spray. Paul was her husband. She goes, I want that Reflex Protect.
Yeah.
And because this stuff is going on too much.
It's a crazy world out there. Like I said, people have to pay attention. And tell them about that one person you were telling me about that didn't want to be in the class. They said, well, why should we do this? We could just call the police. Tell them the famous line about the police.
Well, when seconds count, the police are minutes away.
Right. Right.
And that was, I was in that class with a police officer, and actually that police officer retired from the police department and is helping Reflex Protect now, Ben Gladwin. But he and I were at an active shooter. It wasn't a class. We were talking about the class to a bunch of university people, because there were people that were resisting, saying, why should we have a class like this at the university? Mm-hmm. And that was a student said, why should we learn this? It's your job. And, Ben looked at him and said, yeah, and we're going to get there as fast as we can, but it might take a little while depending on where we are. And we want you to survive until we get there. And that's what this class is about.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm teaching in my classes. And that's what Reflex Protect is for. It's to fill that gap until the professionals get there, to give you a better chance of surviving something terrible.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm just thrilled to death. And like I said, from a business standpoint, you were on your own for a long time, and then you made a decision to team up. It's an entrepreneurial podcast, so this is another way to make it, where 2 people that are compatible, non-competitive, that makes sense, team up for a greater good. So you just have to be careful with your dream.
Joe is the entrepreneurial truth, because this is still a startup. So I mean, it's lean and mean, and we teamed up because we thought, being together, we could both blow this up and we could all benefit and help more people. And we're still, busting our butts to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I just want people to know if you do get in, decide to collaborate, you need to have good agreements. And luckily, Alan's an attorney already. But it's easy to get into stuff, but getting out, if somebody dies or if you just don't get along, you just have to have everything written up good by an attorney so that you don't get stuck in even if somebody dies and then their family comes in and tries to run the business. Oh my God. Yeah, so yeah, you got to be careful about it, but it is a method to really expand. The old two heads are better than one thing. So
Exactly. And you're so right about you want good agreements.
right.
And if you're ever going to team up with anybody, you want to make sure it's a good fit.
You really want to vet people because Vetrepreneur Month, but vet in a different sense because, like I said, once you get, it's just a lot of hassle to get in, and it's way more to get out. So, and how do I know this? Yeah, and a big lawsuit to get out of the only partnership I ever was in ended in a lawsuit. So yeah, I learned my lesson the hard way.
Exactly. I was, like I said, I used to be in part of a firm that I didn't like. It wasn't for me. And I was on my own for, a long time because, there was nobody else I wanted to partner with. And this, when Joe came along with this particular product, it just sort of clicked and it made sense for us to work together to build something bigger than either of us could do on our own.
Exactly. And like both of you you'll do more active shooter classes. He'll sell more Reflex Protect, and you'll undoubtedly save lives. Undoubtedly, you'll save lives. Because what they learned in the class, still, if you and I both emphasize awareness so much, hopefully that'll carry over to their home and their traveling around and going to the mall and everything else.
Exactly. I mean, part of my survive a shooting classes, and you saw it, in the book, and we talked about it when we've taught together. I always included an awareness component because that is your number one.
Absolutely. I mean, people tell them that other thing. You say, get your head
out of your apps. APPS.
Yeah, right.
You walk around looking at, texting and reading your phone, and people have walked off of cliffs. They've walked into fountains.
Right.
Go to YouTube. You can see the videos.
Oh, and we showed that thing at class where this lady's carrying a baby, looking at her cell phone, and the guy looks around. He's aware, and he goes and just kicks her down, knocks her down on top of her baby, and just to steal her cell phone. Because
exactly.
She wasn't looking around. Had she just paid attention, looked at him, probably wouldn't happen. He knew
probably wouldn't have. Exactly. That's a real important video. And when you watch that video, you notice the criminal, he was looking around.
He was aware what's going on.
He didn't spot the security camera that, caught the footage of him, which helped catch him later. But, thankfully the baby was okay. But, that lady should have been paying attention to what's going on around her, not her phone.
Yeah. And a lot of people think it just cracks me up. I mean, it doesn't crack me up. It's sad. I wish I could stop and tell the people, but I mean, I see these female joggers and walkers, and they're on the phone thinking that that's going to protect them, when chances are it's going to hurt them worse because they're not paying attention.
Yeah. Paying attention is so important. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I think you're right. I think we will save lives and we'll save people from getting hurt. I mean, Reflex Protect has already been deployed in a couple hospitals for real situations, not against shooters, but against other workplace violence. And it has kept nurses from getting beat up.
Absolutely. I mean, there's irate people, friends of the person that's in or relatives of the people that are in the emergency room that get out of hand. They get mad. They start screaming. I know that in my protection dog company, they're starting to deploy dogs even in the ERs at some of these bad places.
Yeah, I mean, my wife recorded something off of TV the other day because I wasn't home. It was a big news report on workplace violence in hospitals, and they're showing all these video clips of nurses and orderlies and other people getting beat up.
Oh man.
And that's exactly what Reflex Protect initially was designed for. It was designed for hospitals first. And unfortunately, or I guess fortunately, has been used in hospitals and kept nurses safe. It's unfortunate that it's needed and that, that workforce needs something.
The bottom line is you have to take responsibility for your own safety. because the courts and the police are not, because I'm just watching my big screen over on the wall, and there was a story came out today that that guy that shot Kate Stiley out in San Francisco, the charge that he did get charged with just got overturned by some liberal judge. Yeah, so he's off.
Yeah. So I mean, and I think, I open almost every one of my active shooter things with, do you got a police officer in your back pocket?
Yeah.
And actually yesterday in Arizona, I had a lady raise her hand and say, yes. I said, where is he? She goes, well, he's my husband. He's not here right now. I said, so you only have him in your back pocket some of the time. But,
so can you use it as a Kubaton? I don't know what this looks like. Is it a canister? What is it?
It's a bigger canister, and we're actually working on a smaller version too, because we have so many people saying they'd like a smaller version that would fit in the pocket or purse easier. Right now it's a larger can. It's sort of an institutional can. We have brackets that'll mount on a wall or under a desk or inside the school bus.
Oh, okay. So this is not a purse carry thing.
No, I mean, we do have a holster because we have different security and different custodians and different people that do carry it on their belt, but it's sort of large.
Okay.
So we are working on a smaller size that we'll have as well.
Okay, great. So anyway, tell them how they get a hold of you if they'd like to book one of these classes or check out your books and your DVD series and all that stuff. What's the best websites to go to?
The two I mentioned before, I mean, if you want the Survive a Shooting book, get an autographed copy, go to surviveashooting.com. If you want there's a link to the Amazon if you want Kindle there too, but you can get signed copies, surviveashooting.com. My safety newsletter and self-defense newsletter, surviveanddefend.com. And if you want to know more about this revolutionary new spray, go to reflexprotect.com. And I can be contacted at any of those websites.
And for those of you listening, could you tell that Alan's a girl? No, I thought he was a girl for a couple of years because he's got a French spelling to his name. It's Alain. And so I met him through online stuff on my email newsletter. For years, I thought it was a girl. So,
that was way back in the 90s when we were only communicating. We hadn't met in person or talked on the phone yet.
And so spell your name too while we're at it.
It's Alain Burrese, Burrese. And if you're French, you would go Alain. But I just go by Alan.
Alain Burrese.
Claude Van Damme has had 2 different movies where he played characters with that name, and nobody mistakes him for a woman usually either.
Okay, we got to take a quick sponsor break. And since this is Veterpreneurs Month, I want to tell you a little bit more about how my school supports military families and how our training can help them. First of all, we give a 50% or that turns out to $9,500 scholarship just to thank them for their service. This applies to active duty folks or veterans. Then for eligible military spouses, the Department of Defense gives them an additional $4,000. The reason this is perfect for military families, and I know this firsthand living in Virginia Beach, where we have probably the biggest collection of military in the world. I mean, spouses around here normally have to take crappy jobs at lower than average pay because employers know that they're going to get deployed. Employers don't want to invest a lot of money in people they know will be leaving. And then the spouse has to get deployed and find another crappy job in their new location. All right, now this sucks. I mean, with internet marketing training, companies don't care where you live. I mean, you can work legitimately from home, and if you get deployed somewhere else, it doesn't matter. You can still be handling social media, email marketing, shopping cart stuff, customer service, and all the other things every business on earth needs. And not only that, you can study at home with no expenses for books, travel, or childcare anytime, day or night. It's a perfect fit for military families. And one more thing, you can also sell your own products and services with the same skills you learn at our school. So check it all out at imtcva.org/military. IMTCVA, that stands for Internet Marketing Training Center of Virginia.org /military. But just because it's in Virginia, remember, anywhere in the world you can get an internet connection, you can study and get the skills you need to have a portable skill set that you can take with you around the world. And I'll be thrilled to support you all the way. So check out everything in the show notes at screwthecommute.com /176. That's this episode. Or you can go directly to the website imtcva.org /military. Oh, and one more thing. You know, we love our military, but we also love our law enforcement and first responders. So they get the same deal. Now, the Department of Defense doesn't have the scholarship for them, but we certainly give the $9,500 scholarship to law enforcement and first responders. All right, let's get back to the main event. Well, gee, thanks so much for visiting us and kicking off Vetrepreneur Month for us. I don't want to be cliche about it because, you know, you and I go way back, but thanks for your service, to, you know, doing all the things that you veterans have done to keep us safe is appreciated for sure on this podcast.
I appreciate it, Tom, and I want to do a shout out to all the veterans too. All my fellow brothers and sisters that served in any of the armed forces. You know, thank you for what you've done if you served, and thank you for what you're doing if you're serving now.
All right, sounds good. So everybody, check back in. We've got a lot more great vetrepreneurs coming on this month, and of course on Mondays I just do my in-depth training sessions on something that's either made me a lot of money or saved me a lot of money. On Wednesdays and Fridays, I'll be doing these interviews with great vetrepreneurs, and one of the ones that kind of helped inspire this Vetrepreneur Month will be a special Patriot edition on September 11th, which is a Wednesday. Will be Stephen Kuhn, the leader of the Vetrepreneur Tribe. It's about 13,500 veterans on Facebook, and so he's kind of what inspired this whole month to be Vetrepreneur Month. So watch for him on September 11th special.